My mentor once told me, rent where you want to live and invest where it makes sense. This advice changed my entire perspective on property investing. Buy a home to live in or an investment property. It's the ultimate real estate dilemma. When my wife and I started our property journey, we were stuck at this exact crossroads. That's when a piece of advice from my mentor completely changed the game for us. He taught me to rent where you want to live and invest where you want to make money. Fast forward 8 years, and we've built a portfolio of 7 investment properties without buying a single home to live in. I know it sounds a bit unconventional, but it's a strategy called rentvesting, and it's allowed us to live in some of the most beautiful suburbs while still building our wealth through property. Now, I'm not saying rentvesting is the right move for everyone. There are some pros and cons to both buying a home to live in and investing in property, and the best choice depends on your unique circumstances and financial goals. For example, buying a home to live in can give you a sense of stability. On the other hand, investing in property can offer better cash flow and tax benefits, but it also means you don't have a place to call your own. So which path should you take? Well, that's exactly what we're going to figure out together. I'll share my first-hand experience with rentvesting and the lessons I've learned and help you weigh up the pros and cons of each strategy. We'll start by looking at the pros and cons of the most obvious choice, buying a home to live in. First up, let's chat about the pros of buying a home to live in. One of the biggest advantages is you might be eligible for first home buyer grants. These grants are different in each state, but they can include things like stamp duty exemptions or cash bonuses, which can be a game changer when you're trying to break into the property market. Take New South Wales, for example. If you're an eligible first home buyer purchasing a newly built home valued at less than $600,000, you could score a $10,000 first homeowner grant. In some cases, these grants can help you save tens of thousands of dollars, making it easier to get your foot in the door with home ownership. Another big plus is the sense of stability and security that comes with owning your own place. When you're the owner, you've got the freedom to make the place your own without having to ask anyone for permission. Feel like putting some hooks on the wall to hang up some photos? Go for it. You want to renovate the bathroom? It's totally up to you. Owning a home means you can do whatever you want with the space without needing to ask permission from your landlord. But there are some potential drawbacks to keep in mind too. One of the biggest cons is the chance that you might outgrow your home. I know so many people who buy a small one-bedroom apartment for themselves, and eventually they get married, have kids, and realize that their once perfect apartment is too small and no longer fits the bill. This can mean going through the expensive and time-consuming process of selling their home and looking for something new. I will mention though that there is one benefit to consider in this situation, and that is capital gains tax. Owner-occupiers don't have to pay it when they sell their primary residence, and that's because you're not deriving any income from it. The minute you have to sell an investment property, it will trigger CGT. But back to the drawbacks. Another thing to consider is the higher costs that come with being a homeowner. On top of your mortgage repayments, you will need to factor in things like council rates, utilities, strata, and ongoing maintenance. These costs can really add up and put a strain on your wallet, especially if you're not prepared for them. Something else to keep in mind is that the interest you pay on your mortgage for your own home isn't tax deductible. On the other hand, when you own an investment property, you can claim the interest as a tax deduction, which can help offset some of the cost of ownership. Lastly, if your long-term goal is to build a big property portfolio, buying a home to live in can potentially limit your borrowing power. When you apply for loans to buy investment properties, lenders will look at your existing home loan as a big liability because it's a large debt that doesn't generate any income. This can impact your ability to get financing for additional properties, as the banks will take into account your home loan repayments when they're assessing your serviceability. So while buying a home to live in can be an awesome choice for plenty of people, it's crucial to weigh up these pros and cons carefully. It's not the only way to get into the property game, and depending on your goals and circumstances, other strategies might be worth looking into, which leads me to the strategy that I went with, buying investment properties. So why did I decide to rentvest instead of buying a home to live in? For me, it came down to a few key factors. Firstly, the suburbs we wanted to live in were way too expensive for us, and we were priced out, but we didn't want to compromise on our lifestyle by moving further away from the city and living in a suburb that we didn't want to be in. Secondly, I realized that investment properties often have better cash flow compared to owning your own home. When you're renting, you have more disposable income that you can save and put in your offset account or put towards your next deposit. That extra cash flow was a game changer for me, especially in the early stages of building my portfolio. Another big advantage I've found with owning investment properties is that many of the expenses are tax deductible. Interest repayments, strata fees, council rates, and water bills can all be claimed as tax deductions at tax time. This has significantly reduced the overall cost of holding my properties and improved my cash flow. When my wife and I first started rent vesting, we were able to live in a much nicer suburb than we could have afforded to buy in. And as renters, we didn't have to worry about expenses like rates and strata fees or maintenance costs. That was all covered by the landlord, and the extra cash flow helped us pay our rent. Having that additional cash flow was extremely important for us. It meant we could build up our savings faster and work towards our next deposit sooner. And because we were diligent about saving and not splurging on unnecessary things, the banks looked at us favorably when it came to finance our next investment property. Of course, rent vesting hasn't been without its challenges. There have been times when we've been forced to move because the landlord decided to sell the property or move a family member in. I remember one time we were just given a few weeks' notice that we needed to find a new place. It was stressful. And sure, it can be frustrating not being able to renovate or make changes to the place you're living in. I'd love to be able to hang pictures on the walls or install baby gates without asking for permission. And yeah, having a property manager come through and inspect the place every few months can be a bit of a pain. But for us, the benefits of rent vesting have far outweighed the drawbacks. It's allowed us to build a diversified portfolio of investment properties across Queensland and Western Australia, while still being able to live in some of the most beautiful suburbs in Sydney. We've been able to enjoy a great lifestyle while having our investments work hard for us in the background. Of course, there's a bit of a stigma around renting and the idea that rent money is dead money, but I don't see it that way. By rent vesting, we've been able to use our rental payments as a tool to build our wealth through property. In my opinion, it's a smart and strategic way to get ahead. But how do you actually decide which strategy is right for you? Here's the thing, there is no one-size-fits-all answer. It really depends on your unique circumstances, financial goals, and personal preferences. One of the things to consider is your stage of life. When my wife and I started investing in property, we were in our mid-20s and didn't have any kids. At that stage, rent vesting made a lot of sense to us. We were able to live in trendy inner city suburbs that we couldn't afford to buy in while still building our portfolio. But as we've gotten older and our family has grown, our priorities have started to shift. We're now thinking more about stability, being close to good schools, and having a place to truly call our own. So while rent vesting has served us well up until this point, we're starting to consider buying a family home in the next few years. Another important factor to think of is your financial goals. Are you looking to build long-term wealth, or do you just want a place to call your home? If your main priority is to build a portfolio for financial growth, then investing in property might be the way to go. But if you're more focused on stability and security, then buying a home to live in could be a better choice. It's also crucial to consider your budget in the current market conditions. In some areas, it might be more affordable to buy a home than to rent, while in others, the opposite might be true. And if you're looking to invest in property, you need to do your research to find areas with strong growth potential and good rental yields. For us, the decision to rent vest came down to a combination of factors. We knew we wanted to build a big property portfolio, but we also wanted the flexibility to live in the areas that suited our lifestyle. By analysing the data and looking at the long-term potential of different investment options, we were able to make an informed decision that aligned with our goals. Of course, everyone's situation is different, and what worked for us might not be the right strategy for you. It's important to take the time to assess your own circumstances and priorities and to seek advice from professionals if you're not sure. But one thing I will say is that regardless of whether you choose to buy a home to live in or invest in property, the most important thing is to have a clear strategy and stick to it. Property investing is a long-term game, and success rarely happens overnight. It takes patience, discipline, and willingness to ride out the ups and downs of the market. So there you have it, the pros and cons of buying a home to live in versus investing in property. But here's the thing, knowing the difference is only the first step. The real key to success in property investing is having a proven strategy and avoiding the costly mistakes that so many investors make. That's exactly what I cover in my other videos, where I dive deep into the specific 3-stage strategy that's allowed me to build a multi-million-dollar property portfolio. I also share the biggest mistakes I made along the way so you can avoid them and fast-track your own success. If you're serious about building wealth through property investing, you won't want to miss these insights. So head over to my channel now. And if you found this video helpful, please give it a like and consider subscribing to my channel. I'm committed to helping you on your property investing journey, and I've got heaps more valuable content coming your way. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.